Hi, it's Joey, and today we're watching Only Murders in the Building, Season 1, Episode 4, The Sting, which I guess means we're doing a sting operation on Sting. Very exciting. Thank you so much, Kevin, for sponsoring this show. Can't believe Sting is a number one suspect. Let's go. God. You still have the leg? What did you do with it?
I don't need to hear it right now.
Oh my god, what the fuck?
Got here as fast as I could. Hurry, where's Winnie? You're just in there. Hurry, go, calm down. Just run.
Is Will gonna see that?
Always.
Jesus Christ! I mean, I'm not saying unwell dog is not a serious issue, but you're going to be like, the killer has killed your family. Hasn't even killed the dog, touch wood. My lord, that man is dramatic. But it was his dog. Very shocking to come home to.
The killer poisoned my dog. What? My son has her. He's a vet. She recovered, thank God, but clearly we are getting closer to sending a message.
You made them think they'd murdered your children.
And the podcaster, I and you.
What if Winnie had
Maybe
died?
go to the police?
It would be on me again. I know this seems impossible. It's bananas,
It's Sting.
This gives me no pleasure in saying this.
I mean, what it does for your
Musical superstar
ratings.
Sting.
The guy from U2.
Are you kidding me?
Sting.
The police, Roxanne.
I feel terrible because I do barely know who Sting is. I know of him, obviously, because I know my mum, I think, used to like his music or some of his songs. I don't know.
Take only one.
Every Breath You Take is no love song. It's about a jealous
It's very
stalker and
creepy.
surveillance, and it actually seems like it was written by a killer.
Dun dun dun.
You would love to.
Sting loses millions. Funds mismanaged by his former investment firm, Wright and Ogilvy. That's Tim's old firm.
Dun dun dun.
Wait a minute. On her list of people who stayed during the fire alarm.
How did you miss that?
Because it was Sting. I figured he stayed behind to write some fucking masterpiece.
Guys, this is actually something.
It actually is their first real suspect.
We have
Second
hit
real suspect, I
the
suppose.
mother load.
Next to tie-dye guy.
Enough with tie-dye.
We cannot forget about tie-dye guy.
No.
But if we're going to go down this road...
I still do wonder if Mabel doesn't have a tie-dye hoodie. She was the last one to that restaurant.
Anaya was just FaceTiming with Lucy. She asked about you.
Oh, that's nice.
Lucy asked about him. What happened between
I have
them?
this faint memory.
Hi.
Hi. I mean, hi. I said hi. Ha!
Hi.
Well, someone was a little flirty.
It's a lot of bassoon jokes.
Is it the first time he's flirted with since
You
Lucy?
should have-
Whatever happened.
Oh, not a good time, so...
Right. You should wait. Plenty of time. You know, 70's the new 40.
I want you to be less mean.
I know you do.
Good response.
Hi.
Oh god. Gushing fanboys. And fangirl.
What will it mean to get bossed? She won't stop making podcasts, will she?
What they're buying is her.
Of course.
Poisoned your dog?
Well, it was a message to the leader.
This is going terribly.
Give me a tagline.
How do we get in?
Okay, well, with a public person, the key is...
It's amazing that she's
in a
actually
way that
talking to them and
disarms
helping them.
Of course.
A turkey.
Who turns someone away who has cooked them a 19-pound turkey?
We bring Sting a turkey.
Oh my
Well,
god.
I mean,
Jesus Christ. What is this?
What? You think I can't do it?
She's playing it at the window. For him. So very romantic. She's definitely the killer. This is really sweet. She coming to knock on his door? That was very fast for it to be her. Or is this a threat? That was speedy running.
What do you share? What do you not share? You know, if
Just
it works
be
out,
yourself.
great. If it doesn't work out, isn't it insulting to flirt now?
Well, who the hell knows?
Be
Sometimes
respectful
tell
with
the
it.
Secretary she looks.
It can be nerve-wracking, I'm sure, but just be yourself. I never understand this pretending to be somebody else.
so
When you're
I
dating
kinda
someone.
had 2 childhoods. I can't believe I told you all that.
It's either going really well or really
Which makes me
badly.
feel very comfortable.
He's not comfortable, is he?
What about?
No one trusts a person who clasps their hands.
Oh God.
Yeah, I get.
Your turn.
He doesn't know
My
nothing
turn
about
for what?
himself.
Well, how did your parents wound you? Tell me about your last relationship.
See here.
Clasping his
First,
clothes. It just means he struggles
my
with
parents
talking
were
about himself. He's going into a Brazo
my,
script.
last girlfriend. What I love.
Just be
That
honest and
hurts
say you
is
don't
so
quite feel
unusual.
comfortable.
Not everyone has a ton of baggage. Not that you have,
Jesus!
any more
He is
baggage
not
than
good at
anyone else. You
this.
have the exact.
I think I'm
Yeah.
good.
Oh.
Yeah, you've just said
Sometimes a second chance
he was too
Knowing it,
anxious.
can cause you to make some weird choices.
He didn't. He needed to be able to let go and be honest with her. That's the only way you can make a
We're just
relationship.
going with the turkey.
Of course they are. And like, even if his being honest with her was to say, well, I don't, thank you for sharing that with me, but right now I have to say it. I thought I would be, but I'm not ready to share it with you. Rather than just clamming up and being like he was.
Sorry to wake you. I am amazed. I didn't think you'd be on board with this.
So on board with
He's
this.
making crazy
This is
decisions.
how I'm gonna fill the rest of my days. So give me that baster and let's make a mess.
He's not okay. Very not okay.
Turkey delivery.
I hope you're hungry.
Anita, are we expecting a turkey?
I hope not. You certainly don't need a second one.
I'm not seeing a turkey on your schedule. So we live.
Come in.
Okay.
He got them in the
full
door.
disclosure, This is actually
You're the guy doing the podcast.
The words got out.
Look, I'm
Heard you knew Tim Kono. Was he a?
You're very clearly just doing this for the
I
podcast.
didn't know him personally. Tim Kono lost all your money.
It might just make you snap. You know,
He's
might
just moved the tour up to make
make
money
you
or something.
Even murderous.
What are you all getting at?
She did
I
it.
think Tim's death is my fault.
Ooh,
Well, you're right.
the drama.
I killed him.
Sir?
I've been so full of rage lately.
Oh, does he think
The
he
day
drove
before
him to
Tim's
kill
death, I
himself?
screamed at him. You fucked me over! You're fired! You should kill yourself! But then he did. So you think Tim was murdered?
I know he was.
Oh my God.
So he's now off the hook for causing a suicide. Jesus
I've been
Christ.
racked with guilt. I thought he killed himself because of me. I thought it was me, and I was so low. But my words didn't put a bullet into Tim Kono.
Jesus
Oh,
Christ.
no.
This is going to #1. Honesty,
my
that's what
last
matters.
relationship lasted 6 years. We met under false pretenses. She moved in, and she brought with her her 7-year-old daughter, Lucy. I tried to give Lucy
Oh,
some stability.
that's
A
Lucy.
routine, and I would cook her favorite omelet in the morning, and she loved it, and I loved it.
That was a big age
But
difference
my
between him and his
ex
ex.
Didn't. But Emma insisted that Lucy go. And they never came back.
He went missing.
No, they flew home from St. Croix.
Fuck.
So I stayed alone, except for Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, who
That's
I
why
had paid
they're
extra
haunting him.
to be at our anniversary.
Oh.
Emma
She
thought
shouldn't have just
heartbreak
ditched
would be
him.
best for Lucy, and
That's who
I've been
Lucy
haunted
is.
by it.
6 years. Lucy's like
And by Bugs
13
and
now.
Porky.
If it was 6
You
years.
know, I don't share this.
That's what I mean. You, even if he had just said, I can't quite tell you yet.
I like you, and I would like a second
This
date.
is a big step.
I will call you.
What's more dangerous?
That was
Taking
really
advantage
brave.
of a second chance?
She solved the jewelry.
I shared.
He
I got a
did.
second date.
Mabel's doing it
I
all
didn't
alone.
sleep for a month.
I listened to your podcast. You didn't tell me you were doing it with Mabel Mora.
What?
Oh.
You know her?
She used to stay here during spring breaks. She hung out with this group of kids, and one of them was Tim Kono.
Fuck, they know.
Wait, what?
She knew Tim Kono?
Last time she was here, one of the other friends died. She got pushed off the roof.
What?
They
That
does
girl
not
was
look
bad
good for
news.
Mabel.
Can you just say all that one more time?
Jesus Christ. They know now at least. Fucking hell.
What happens when your second chance becomes
becomes your last shot.
She's being followed by the tie-dye.
Line of dialogue in 13.
A few months from
Prophesized
now,
what would happen 15 years later. He and his true crime fan buddies
she's doing a
took
podcast
a
about
second
them.
chance
Fuck.
and became the. Stay tuned for Only Murderers in the Building. coming
Jesus
this fall.
Christ.
Until then.
Okay, so the big takeaway from that episode is that they now know that Mabel knew Tim Kono, which is huge, because before now, she kept that very under wraps. She's gone off to try and solve the mystery. She thinks she's figured out what's up with the jewels, and she's being followed by tie-dye. Very, very interesting. I'm just so glad, because that means that in the next episode, surely, I know they're not very long, but surely in the next episode, or at least the one afterwards, if the next episode is purely her going on the meeting, they're going to confront her. And the truth is going to come out, and then they're going to all be operating on the same page, more or less. There'll still be some things they keep from each other, but, you know, I don't know if she knows about Oliver's money troubles, but Charles does. So kind of all the secrets are out there, more or less, although as the audience we know who Lucy is and what the truth is with Lucy. Gosh, that is so heartbreaking. Because he said it was 6 years, right? And she was 7, so she was 13 when they left. He was her father figure, or at least a father figure, from the age of 7 to 13. A clean break. I almost feel like there should be some way where you keep him in her life, whether it's letting him go on occasional, like once a month they go on a day trip together or something, just because you've chosen to make this man a huge part of your child's life. You can't now just cut them off. But I suppose if that's what was best for her, just let her have one last cruise that she can enjoy, for God's sake. So yeah, that was heartbreaking to learn the truth about who Lucy was and why Lucy, he's never had a wife, he's not had that kind of long, I mean that's potentially his longest relationship, but he feels like he wasn't enough for that relationship, and I think he still blames himself for it failing, when it was just, they weren't compatible. And I think what breaks his heart the most is that he had a daughter very briefly, and then he lost her. Because that's what it will feel like. I don't care, being a step-parent. If you were there for that child, day in, day out, cooking them breakfast, being there for them every single day, you do form a bond, they become your child, like an adopted child. In a lot of ways, what the mum did is cruel. I can kind of understand if it's a bad breakup, if things aren't going well, you're going to be like, you're not going to want to kind of remind yourself every day, or you're kind of going to think, oh, but I don't know, we're too good for him. I mean, it seems like there was probably quite a big age gap if the child was that young. But even so, poor Lucy and poor Charles, I can't even imagine. The date was hideous. I definitely think, like, the key, I mean, full disclosure, I have never been on a date. I've never dated anybody. But I do not understand the concept of going on a date and pretending. Now, Charles wasn't doing that. But the idea of, like, I don't know, if I were to dress really differently to me and try and act like I'm really cool, I'm not that into TV shows, and then 6 months in, be me. You're ridiculous. Like, when I date, I will be dating as me, and I'll be freaking nervous. Cannot imagine it. But, you know, I don't see any reason in pretending to not be you. If you are you from the first date, then they can't ever have that response of, oh, you're not who I thought you were. Now, obviously, I will maybe attempt to act like I have a somewhat reasonable love for Grogu, and then, by the third date, introduce him to my son, Grogu, who he will become stepfather to if things get serious. But you know what I mean? Like, obviously in the first date you need to be a little bit more composed, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, anyway. So similarly that comes with the emotional stuff. So like, she was able to dig deep and tell him all of her deep trauma and all the stuff she's been through, which gives him a really good understanding of her. Not of her red flags, and to be honest, yes, of her baggage, but we all have baggage. We all have some forms of emotional trauma or whatever. So really what he owed her at that sense wasn't necessarily his story, because that can be hard and he doesn't really know her, but it can be, he owed her some kind of like thank you for trusting me with that, like acknowledging that it was a big deal that she'd given him that trust, and then just saying, I do want to tell you, it's not that I don't, it's just that right now it's harder than I thought it would be. This is a big deal for me. Like, if he had just been honest about how big a deal him being on this date was, I think she would be much more understanding of it all. That's basically to be yourself, emotionally honest. If you're nervous and freaking out about something, tell them. Because if you say, oh, I'm actually really nervous on this date, and they have a dickish response, you're quick. You figured out that's a bad date to be on. So yes, anyway, that was a long ramble about a very small part of the show, but I'm very proud of Charles. That was a huge step. And him then knocking on her door and just being emotionally vulnerable, letting in those secrets, those things that, because it hurts so much that this child has been taken from him, he doesn't want to dwell on it, he doesn't want to think on it, he just wants to live his life. And did he say he used to make her the same omelette every morning? And that's why he makes the omelette and then throws it in the bin, because he's still making the omelette for... Oh no. Please say I've misremembered that, because that's just gutting. I do think if you have a child and you choose to bring another adult into that child's life as a parent-esque figure, if things don't go well, you should give them some kind of relationship. I know, obviously, not if the person is abusive or cheats on you or any of that kind of situation, but like for the kid's sake, because she'll be worried. Like she's even still asking about him because he was like a father or grandfather or whatever to her. So that was a lot. We learned a lot more about Charles, and I'm glad we finally got his real story. And it made me really proud to see him really pushing his boundaries in this episode. For Mabel and for Oliver, I think this episode they kind of took more of an emotional backseat. It was just them meeting their podcast superstar. So obviously this podcast must get a decent amount of traction. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get like huge, but it must get enough people talking about it that it was a story that the big podcast lady and like her media people now, or like her overlord people, thought that's a good podcast, we could use that, because she's obviously turning Emma doing the only murderers in the building, which is a play on their title. So clearly things get even messier than they already are. I wonder if she's already started, did she consider that meeting so she could start like seeing if there's anything there? It's so interesting. And I can't wait to find out what happens, because obviously we saw there were police storming the building, and then Oliver and Charles were leaving, and then he was like, we can't leave without her. So they go to Mabel's apartment and it looks like there's a dead body, and she said this is not what it looks like. So someone else gets murdered, something else happens. I'm so excited to learn more. She's figured out the clue of what the post-it note meant. They know that she is doing something, that she's been lying to them about Tim Kono. And I think it's interesting. I'm glad that the son said, you know, she must have thought it would look suspicious. She's bad. And then he also said she's bad news, because I mean, that was a group of kids that were breaking into apartments, stealing things, and then one of them gets pushed off a building. I don't know how much of all that was known, but it is clearly bad news. And the true motive is very likely linked to that, so I'm so excited, I'm so fascinated. The Sting stuff was hilarious. It was really good to kind of see him acting a bit shifty and down because he thought he'd killed someone by like, I mean, that is one reason why, again, don't harass someone, don't treat people like this shit, don't yell and scream at them like that, because you don't know if you caught that person was barely hanging on and then you destroy their mental health in a second. And then he was like, well, you know, he was killed? Yes! I still think they can get a podcast episode out of that. I mean, I don't listen to podcasts. Again, like I say, not out of any like dislike of podcasts, just I do not have enough time in my life to do podcasts as well as everything else that I do, all my other hobbies. But I imagine that would be at least a decent chunk of an episode, with then the big dun dun dun, Mabel really knew stuff. I don't know, this podcast is already very messy, but I think it's the kind of thing that you would stumble across and you'd get hooked to. So I'm very excited to see where this goes next. Thank you so much, Kevin, for sponsoring this show, and thank you for watching.